We fill our minds with so much junk, so much rubbish, so much nonsensical information. And then we wonder why it is that we're feeling anxious, depressed, fearful, struggling.
Welcome, high-performing entrepreneurs and business owners. Do you suffer from shiny object syndrome? Do you often feel scattered and distracted, making it hard to implement your plan with all the ideas and strategies coming at you? Do you often wonder if you have the right goals and plan? Welcome to Extraordinary Focus with David Wood, where we help you achieve way more in less time. Get the laser focus you need so you can double your business, double your impact in the world, and be an even more extraordinary entrepreneur and human. Let's dive in and stay tuned at the end for your gift.
Welcome back to another episode of Extraordinary Focus. And I am actually excited. Everyone says that. They always say, I'm excited to introduce this new guest. And I think they're lying most of the time. But this time I am. I'm going to read you a little bit about Monique, and then we'll get her out here, which is another thing I love to say because we don't have a stage, but it's like, let's get her out here. Monique Rhodes is a happiness strategist who teaches students and corporations around the world how to master their lives. She spent 25 years studying the mind and its relationship to happiness and suffering. And by the way, I got her on the show because I want to know more about how to be happy for myself. So this is very self-serving. Over 70 universities and colleges use her program, the 10-Minute Mind. And this was not in her bio, but she has performed solo in front, singing, I assume, in front of up to 10,000 people a night, touring Europe, twice opening for Chuck Berry. How many people can say that? And she bought a Royal Enfield motorcycle and rode it through India for 4 years alone. So that had me want to speak to you, Monique. Thanks for being on the show.
So good to see you, David.
Yeah, it's good to hear an Aussie accent. I assume it's an Aussie accent.
I have to say it's one step above that. It's
a
Kiwi accent, David.
One step, you're elevated to Kiwi status. I should have known. Because you were nominated for the New Zealander of the Year award, right?
Yes, I was. Yes.
Yeah. All right, Kiwi. Well, I won't hold it against you. I'm not that parochial these days. So let's see. I want to start with something that you sent me in our prep and in my research was turning around my life feels equivalent to what it takes to win an Olympic gold medal in mind training. And it's the greatest achievement of your life. And I want to know about that. Can you give us a version of where were you and how did you turn around your life?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that, a lot of us suffer. Like suffering is something big. People have gone through lots and lots of things, but I wanted to see whether this suffering was actually something that I was stuck with or whether it was something that I could actually turn around. I think most of my teenage years, I was quite depressed. I grew up in a very difficult situation in my home. And by the age of 19, I ended up in hospital having tried to take my own life. And that was where I really asked myself this question: why is it that I'm struggling so much? And why is it that some other people seem to have a relatively, easy sort of existence? And was there something that I could understand differently to shift this? Was it movable, or was it just my kind of luck of the draw? And so I went on this adventure for a long time. Over 25 years I've been doing it, looking to see whether it's possible to actually shift and change happiness levels. Could I shift this part of me that was in such unbelievable turmoil and despair? I'd wake up in the morning, I wouldn't feel good. I might feel good sometime later in the day, but my emotions were all over the place. My thinking was all over the place. I was anxious. I didn't feel safe in the world. And obviously I was also suicidal. And I've managed to turn my life around to a place where, I don't know, sometimes I think if I wasn't me, I'd be jealous of myself. My life has really been extraordinary, but not through luck, through design. And I've learned through this, and also the work that I do teaching so many other people, that it is possible to change and you can transform your life if you want to. And I'm living testament to it.
I love that line. If I wasn't me, I'd be jealous of me. What a great line. This is a personal topic for me. I do suffer I have a lot of joy and good times in my life, but I do suffer. In fact, the last week has been a real tough week. I had 8 days ago, I was depressed, down, didn't want to face anything, and then was scared. How am I going to face the world? How am I going to show up for work? How am I going to show up for clients? How will I show up for these acting gigs and rehearsals and all of this stuff? And so there's a lot of suffering, and I believe it's optional, but it doesn't always feel like that. And I want to touch on something else you said. You said it's by design. It wasn't accidental. And I wonder how many, this is my question for you, how many humans notice that they're not happy and then say, I wonder what the steps would be, and then I'm going to put those in place and do those consistently over time to change that, versus this is just how it is. I'm just going to bitch and complain and I'm going to suffer.
I don't know how many people do, but I think that it's so much easier if someone shows you how. And for me, I had to go through all the experimenting to figure it out. Whereas now I'm able to work with clients and show them there's a series of steps, because one of the biggest things that I've understood through this journey is that even though I say that, and you might say, it's optional. I know, this past week's been really hard for you. And you know in yourself, there is a way to change this. But unless someone comes along and says to you, here are the steps, it could take you a long time to figure out exactly what it is that you need to shift and change.
All right, great segue. Before we get to the steps, I'm interested to know, what are some of the things that we do as humans that take us away from happiness? And then we could talk about some practical things that people can actually write down and go and do starting today to feel happier.
Absolutely. So I think one of the biggest things that we're up against these days, David, is that we're facing a world where we're inundated with information, and it's exhausting, and we're struggling with it. There's so much opposing information. There's so much information that's fear-based, but there's also a bunch of information that we kind of soak up all day, every day, that we don't realize, which is advertising. Everywhere we turn, we are inundated with advertising messages. From every time we open our phone, the internet, online, we go outside, there's billboards. I remember once being in Sydney and there was advertising on the wheel rims of the taxis, so it was at us all the time. And what that messaging is telling us consistently is, you need this product in order to be happy. And so that really is the basis of capitalism. Capitalism is based in this idea of, if I create a need in you that you're not enough, that you need more, you will buy products and the economy will keep working. But because we're surrounded by it all the time, until we actually remove ourselves from it, which most people don't manage to do because it's difficult to do, we don't realize the impact that it's having on us. And so we're sold this lie: if you can be richer, have a better job, have a nicer car, be famous, powerful, that you'll be happy. But I remember some years ago going and seeing Lady Gaga performing in Las Vegas, and she was doing this kind of acoustic big band thing. It was amazing. She was getting paid $1 million a gig. And the thing that struck me about that performance was she talked about how incredibly unhappy she was. And so I think that when we look at the people that have all of the things that we're led to believe will bring us happiness, we can start to see that these things don't correlate, but we still keep believing the lie because we're surrounded by it all day. Does that make sense?
Oh, I think it does. I'm going to try and paraphrase in the way my brain takes it in. We're in a get well society. You're broken. If you buy this, it'll fix you. You will be good if you do this. If you are thinner, you'll be happier. If you look younger, you'll be happier. If you're married and have a partner and have kids, look, you'll be so great. If you have all this money, I can help you do that. And yet most of those things, I understand the first $70,000 of income can really do a lot for happiness. And after that, it's really up in the air. So we do have this lie and this push. I keep doing and doing and doing and doing, and I got to keep fixing myself. And ultimately, that is not the path.
Exactly. That's it.
Okay. So what are the steps? What are some practical takeaways we can give people so they can actually, and me, so we can actually start increasing happiness intentionally?
Of course. So there's something that's really important to understand. All right. So we wake up in the morning. One of the first things that I do, don't know about you, David, is that I like to brush my teeth. I like to take a shower. Did you do that today?
I don't shower in the morning.
Okay. Brush your teeth, maybe put on some clean clothes. I like to have my workspace really clean and tidy. You know, I like my house to be really clean because I know it makes me feel better, right? But the reality is that I don't live in my home. I don't live in my office. I don't live in my clothes. Where is it that we live? We actually live in our minds. And this is the piece of information that we don't understand. What we don't realize is that when was the last time you cleaned out your mind? I don't know, maybe never. And what we do is we go through life believing that happiness and suffering come from external circumstances, from what happens outside of ourselves. If I get that job, I'm going to be happy. If I meet the person of my dreams, I'll be happy. If I'm driving this great car, I'll be happy. And momentarily, it gives us a good feeling. But as we get used to that thing that we've acquired, that feeling of happiness starts to only become momentary. And then we start the process again, a little bit like a rat or a hamster on a wheel, going round and round, looking for the next thing, for the next thing, and the next thing. So the most important thing that we need to realize and understand is that the one thing we should be looking after in our lives is actually our minds. And we don't. What we do instead, David, is we fill our minds with so much junk, so much rubbish, so much nonsensical information. And then we wonder why it is that we're feeling anxious, depressed, fearful, struggling. I mean, we're literally living under a burden of a over information society that's pounding us with information right now that's terrifying. How could we not? Like, if I was to take you, David, and put you into a house, let's say I take you to a really seedy part of Sydney, all right? And I stick you in a house and it's dark and it's gray and there's nothing on the windows are closed, and I leave you there for 2 weeks, you're going to end up feeling depressed. But that's the kind of place that we're living in on a day-to-day basis unconsciously right now. And then we wonder, why is it that I'm struggling? Why is it I'm feeling depressed? Because we're in an environment that is so, so difficult for us to be happy in.
I'm surprised we haven't come across each other before, because we seem so aligned in so many different ways. 3 things I want to say to that. You familiar with Tim Minchin?
I've heard the name actually just recently.
Well, I highly recommend you go and find his song "Not Perfect." I love Tim. He's a comedian with a real deep message, but he starts with, "This is my earth and I live in it." And then he goes to, "This is my house and I live in it." And then he goes to, "This is my body and I live in it." And he goes to, "This is my brain and I live in it." So you might end up adopting it as a theme song for your work. But that's one thing that came to mind. Another one, and I wrote these down so I wouldn't forget. That's if you hear typing, I'm like, oh, getting stuff down. Oh yeah, I stopped watching the news 20 years ago. And my friend is like, so she's like, "Oh, did you hear about the bridge collapsing?" I'm like, "No, but thanks to you, I now know that a bridge collapsed. Thanks for that info." And the third thing I wanted to mention is I'm a huge Byron Katie fan. And my guess is you might be too.
I am.
And she says it so well. The worst thing that can happen to you is a thought. So I
I
love
love it.
this. Because I used to operate, and I still do often, as if the external world is real, and that's going to give me my happiness. I do this and I'll be happy. Now, yeah, some of that is true, but ultimately everything comes through our mind, through our filter. Our whole matrix comes through this. So if we just change this, the whole world shifts. So yeah, you're preaching to the choir here, and I love it. Are there any other steps besides cleaning our minds that we should leave listeners with?
Look, there's no doubt, David, that meditation is a superpower. And I want to explain why it is, because I think that there's a lot of people that don't really understand what meditation is or why it works. And I'd love to explain it. So meditation isn't about not having any thoughts, okay?
Thank God.
Meditation also isn't creative visualization, which sometimes it can be mistaken for. Basically, meditation is this. I sit you down, I get you nice and quiet. We see after a few seconds that your mind is going to dance off somewhere, and then we bring it back. And then your mind will dance off again, and then we bring it back. It's a little bit like going to the gym and doing bicep curls. You know, we let the weight go out and then we bring it back. And that is where the muscle builds. The muscle that we're building is teaching you just so ever so gently and beautifully how to stay in the present moment. And that is so important because most of the time, our mind, without us realizing it, is dancing off into thoughts of the past or dancing off into thoughts of the future. The past doesn't exist anymore, and our memory of it is completely biased and subjected. So it's just really a fantasy. The future hasn't arrived yet. That too is equally a fantasy. And if I was to say to you, David, what is going to happen next Tuesday at this exact time, you could have a summation, but you probably have absolutely no accurate idea at all. So it's just make believe. The only time that is actually real is the present moment. So if I can teach you to come more and more into the present moment, what then happens is a lot of stress and anxiety starts to dissolve, because the mind then isn't dancing off into these two fantasy worlds, which are called the past and the future. And we start to find that the stress and anxiety starts to relieve. So there's another reason why meditation is really important as well, is because it enables you to get to know yourself. And living in a world that's so distracted, one of the other issues that we've got are people are so separated, not only from each other, but from themselves. And if you can get to know yourself through a meditation practice, as well as learn how to bring your mind back to the present moment, it's a game changer. And so, you know, I teach a course that is just 10 minutes a day, because I believe that that is the best place to begin. And you can stay 10 minutes a day for years if you want. But to have a consistent short practice will make all the difference. Even 10 minutes a day is in clinical trials is proved to make a huge difference in someone's life. And then that practice starts to show up in the rest of your day. You're writing an email, you realize that you're just writing the email. You're having a conversation, you start to realize you're more present in the conversation. So definitely working with the minds through a meditation practice is something that I can't recommend more highly. And just find a teacher, you know, or a program that you enjoy so that you keep coming back and using it.
Well, this is just what I needed to hear today. I've been getting sick. I mean, you know, I've been dabbling in this for years, read The Power of Now and whatever. My mind is so strong and it's constantly going off. And I know my path right now, again, is let's come back. Let's come back to here. Eckhart Tolle says something like, you never have the resources to meet some imagined challenge in the future. It's actually not physically possible because the future isn't here. You cannot meet that challenge, but you always have what you need to meet what's here in the moment. And I've caught myself going, future, future. come back to the breath. Future, blah, blah, plan, plan, plan. Thank you. Back to the breath. So this is a wonderful reminder. Speaking of this 10-minute course, I understand you may have a special offer for our listeners. Is it related to the course or something similar?
Listen, you can come to my website, moniquerhodes.com, just like my name, and, try out the 10-minute mind. That's my meditation course. Try it for 10 days for free. See if you like the style of what I teach. If you do, come and learn with me. But the course that I'm most proud of that I teach is called the Happiness Baseline. And it's an 8-week online course. It teaches you how to be happier. And I don't say that lightly. We test people at the beginning with the Penn State University Happiness Inventory, which is the standard test for testing people's happiness levels. We test people at the end of the course as well. And I have a 100% success rate in shifting every single person that's completed the course. So most online courses, you only get 3% of people complete them. I've done things a little bit differently because I want people to do this work. I'm not doing it so that you won't do it. So instead of charging a fee, we put an accountability bond. We get you to put an accountability bond down, which is usually $500. If you put a $500 accountability bond down, you've got 10 weeks to complete this 8-week course. It takes about 15 minutes a day. At the end of the 10 weeks, we give you 2 weeks extra. You can just send us an email, say, I've completed the course. We check that you have. I want my money back. No questions asked. You get it back. For your audience, as a special gift, David, we'll take 50% off that accountability bond. So it's only $250. If you go into the code when you're applying for it and just put the word focus in, FOCUS, like David's podcast, then you can get it for a special 50% discount. And I can just say to you, it is an incredibly powerful course, and will teach you around the 8 different areas that I believe are game changers when it comes to raising the happiness levels. And the proof is in the pudding. We have so much success with it. We've got a number of Brain Institute in Texas is doing a big study about this program at the moment because it's been so successful. So come and try it. You've got nothing to lose. If you want to be happier, this teaches you everything, including how to get started on a daily meditation practice.
Fantastic. All right. You heard it here, listeners. Go to Monique Rhodes, and that's RHODES, MoniqueRhodes.com. And you can do the 10-minute happiness course for free, right? That's one option.
You can do the 10-minute mind, which is the meditation course.
10-minute mind.
The happiness baseline.
Yep. And then you got the happiness baseline, which is the 8-week course. And instead of paying a fee, you will pay an accountability bond, which will hold you accountable to completing the course. When you can complete it, you can ask for your money back, which is amazing. And here's a tip from me. If you want extra accountability, don't use the code FOCUS. Pay a $500 bond. Why would you pay a $250 accountability bond if you intend to complete it? Get extra accountability by paying $500. But Monique has kindly offered, if you don't trust yourself to complete it, you want to put $250 bond down, you can use the word focus, and then that's all you have to put down. I highly encourage you to go and take advantage of that. Monique, you're a legend. I'm really glad we met at this point. I'm surprised it didn't happen 20 years ago, and I look forward to more.
Thanks, David. So wonderful to be with you today.
You've been listening to Extraordinary Focus with David Wood. Now, to achieve way more in less time, to double your business and your impact in the world, and to be an even more extraordinary entrepreneur and human, make sure you get your gift basket. It includes a cheat sheet to double your focus, a short video to implement the steps, and a free focus audit to identify the #1 focus leak in your business and how to plug it. To get all 3 of these goodies, just go to myfocusgift.com. If you've gotten value out of this episode, tell your friends. And nothing says keep up the good work, David, like a review, which helps us climb in the rankings and reach more listeners. Now, let's be extraordinary.